Welcome to the Center for Creative Education in Northwood, West Palm Beach. I'm here with Hubert Phipps in conjunction with his show, Drawings for Sculpture. Most sculptors who have to go through a process in a foundry or in casting certain objects start out with drawings. Drawings as inspiration, drawings that you make many of until you pick one out that really works for you. Most of the works that are in the show are black and white and are very inventive. These are basically abstract works that are essentially non-narrative. So the whole notion of drawings for sculpture is the common denominator throughout the show. And then we realized that it would be fascinating to have some of the works in the show, the real sculpture, the three-dimensional works, so that you would see them alongside the drawings. And so here we are, kind of discussing the work, Hubert, and we're delighted to have you here, and congratulations on this show. I think most people would be curious about how does this come together and how does it finally come to be a sculpture?
I do a lot of sketches that I really don't know what the sketch is going to be. I'll start with some lines on the paper, and I'll just let a movement on my hand get some marks down onto the paper. And I'm looking at it, and I'll turn it around and maybe make some erasures here, and I'll start to see some forms come into reality, into space. And so what happens is purely blind inventiveness that starts to get developed. If I do have an idea that I'm trying to work out, sometimes that idea that I had in my mind, the end result is completely different. It really seems to have a path of its own.
And the byproduct, the additional bonus, is that you don't have to make a sculpture for every drawing that you make. But at the same time, some theoretical drawings, some abstract drawings, are simply fantastic on their own, whether they are applicable to making a piece of sculpture.
This was an experiment. There was risk involved in this. You spread it was an 8 by 4 foot sheet of paper. I put it on the floor of my drawing studio and covered it with pure paint pigment. I put a blindfold on, turned the lights off. It was night, and so I purposely tried to keep the thinking process out of this particular, at least starting this project. Challenges with a drawing such as this and go to the three-dimensional, this could be very challenging. Let's take a look at lava flow, which I can see through the window there. I created that panel and I used a lot of different materials, and I knew I wanted a sculptural panel with topography. So again, drawing does come into place. Here I'm actually just drawing on a larger piece of plywood. And I'm not done with this yet. I'd like to see it in metal. Still a little bit of work in progress, but that's just part of the artist's process.
You appreciate the work a lot more when you see it from the very beginning and you take us through these steps.
I'll speak also to a piece that is called Waterworks, and it also is here in the show. This particular piece I put on the shelf for over a year. The clay that I was using does not do well in the outside atmosphere, and I was complaining to my assistant. I said, this clay is it's just so difficult to work with now after it's been a year. And he said, Hubert, have you tried, and I'm waiting for the magic recipe here, have you tried talking to it? And that weekend I went to work on this piece, and I talked to this piece. I'm going to talk with it, talk to it, and say, come on, honey, come on, please, just work with me. It prompted me, it helped me to go about the process with a different attitude maybe, and just something that became more intimate. And I'm so glad I persevered with this piece of this sculpture. It's one of my favorite pieces.
Great story. And there you have it, an artist who talks to his sculpture. We had a great afternoon, folks. Thank you for coming to this beautiful show and for attending the lecture. We're delighted to have you here at the Center for Creative Education in historic Northwood, and we hope that you will continue to visit the center for the various shows and exhibitions and lecture programs available to you. Thanks again for coming.